Good day. I'm Dr. Ruth Roberts, the original holistic pet health coach, and with me today is Denise Bozenski from Fetch This Canine, one of our amazing certified holistic pet health coaches. Denise has a really interesting background. We seem to be drawing folks with law enforcement background, but that's kind of where you started, and then you transition into being a professional dog trainer for 8 years and then into nutrition and fitness coaching, which is a really cool thing I think people are leaving out. So you've got 4 dogs of your own and does pet sitting, and she does pet sitting for family and friends. So you've always got a full house.
Yes.
And Denise, I'm so glad you can join us today. Yvette and Melissa are with us. Anybody else hanging out in there? Hello, Sarah. Good to see you. So, one of the things we were chatting about briefly is that you like to really focus on reminding your clients that they are indeed their best advocates for their pets. So, talk a little bit about that. I think we lose that in the shuffle of things.
I think with the inundation of information that people can get these days, they forget that the bottom line is it's their decision to do what they feel is best for their dog when it comes to medical, when it comes to holistic, when it comes to training, but when it comes to everyday life as well, because, if we're not going to advocate for our own dogs, who's going to? So, from interactions, with other people, with other dogs, it's it's our decision. We got our dogs to be our companions. We didn't get them to be able to go out to stores and or parks and let other people love on them. Yeah, we can do that through therapy work, other volunteer type of work. But at the end of the day, they're coming home with us. They're sleeping with us. So we want to make sure that we are advocating for them. And around the holidays, even more so, because you have family coming in, people that they haven't seen, in a long time, maybe they haven't met, or children that they're not used to hanging around with. So we want to make sure that at the end of the day, we are doing what we feel is best for our dogs. And if that means, having them in a different room, if that means making sure guests understand the rules, leave my dog alone, if she wants attention, then pet her. If she walks away, leave her alone. That's really an important part in all of this, because as dogs age, their tolerances change. So as a puppy, you have the happy-go-lucky puppy, everything's fun, and they want to meet everybody and jump on everybody, and we train that for manners and obedience. And then once they're an adolescent, they still may have some of that puppy behavior, but they're turning into adults. And as they turn into adults, their tolerances are going to change. So what you might see as a puppy, you're no longer seeing as an adult dog, and it may take you aback. It may surprise you. Well, she's never done this before. He's never, not been okay with this. And that's as their tolerances change and they age. And then once you get into, being a senior, then those tolerances are going to change again, because I always equated to the grumpy old man. Hey, get off my lawn. When he was in his 20s and 30s, he may not have been so grumpy about people in his yard, on his lawn. But, as you age, tolerances change and boundaries change. So we want to make sure that we are paying attention to those. We are able to read what our dog is telling us, and we act on it. Because with boundaries, we can't make a dog like things they don't like. We can't force them into interactions, because once we start thinking, well, it's a dog, they'll like it eventually, that's where we start getting into more of the reactivity, the anxiety, those stress levels elevate even more. And, if we're not paying attention to the initial signals, we're certainly not going to be paying attention to the little signals of, they're reaching their breaking point, licking their lips, whale eyes, ears are back. We may not ping on those. And now we have a situation where maybe somebody gets nipped, somebody barks, scares a kid. So, again, boundaries and tolerances we have to watch out for, especially in this season when, people are coming around that aren't normally around, and really advocating for them and knowing what they're comfortable with and what they're not, and acting on that.
And I think that is such sage advice. I mean, because I know plenty of clients that had gotten a dog for a specific thing, whether that was
Mhm.
agility or therapy dog or something like that, and the dog was like, "No, I hate this."
Yeah,
And it would take most of my clients a long time to say, "Okay, then this just really isn't for you. This was my thing."
right,
So I think that is really, really, really important is to recognize what they're capable and comfortable with doing.
right,
And I think you gave that list of things um, to watch for in terms of physical changes in their bodies and their expressions so that you, the pet parent, can know, oh, okay, this is not cool and I need to back my dog away, or
right,
usually not cats. Cats are like, "Screw this, I'm done."
right.
But back my dog away from the situation because he does not think it's cool. So,
Yeah,
thank you for that because I think
of course.
most pet parents can miss those subtle cues
Yeah,
about what the dog is saying before the dog takes action.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
and you're right. I mean, holidays, they are just so stressful for everybody.
Hmm.
Um, but how do we so we kinda you kinda went through those symptoms or signs that I don't know about this. So what can we do to set up a safe space for our pets and set it up so that our well-intending friends and relatives don't invade that?
I think routine and consistency are one of the most important things in this because we can set up a brand new space for our dog, a nice little bed, a tent, some blankets, music. But if that's not the space that they're used to, they're most likely not going to use it. So, it kind of takes some pre-planning or remaining consistent with what you already have and making sure that people, respect that space. So, if you have a dog that likes a certain kennel, likes a certain, bed that's in your house, we really want to leave it alone because that is what their comfort levels are based on is that bed or that space being where it is. Once we start changing it, we're just going to amplify that stress because of the fact that we're moving them, we're relocating. Wait, this isn't my normal spot. What's going on? And they're going to boost their anxiety. You may get more anxious because now your dog's not going to the bed you wanted to. They're going to feed off of your anxiety. So, consistency and routine is going to be really important. So, having their bed, trying to keep it where it is. If it's in another room, making sure that they have access to that room so that they can go to their bed if they choose to, or that, that safe space for them, that safe kennel. And just really reiterating to your guests, adults and children, because I've seen adults can be just as bad as children with invading space and, wanting to pet and love on dogs, which, we appreciate. But at the end of the day, you're not running up to every stranger you meet, giving them a hug and talking to them. So, same thing for the dogs, but keeping it consistent, letting your guests know, hey, just leave this room alone. Don't go in there. That's the dog's room. If the dog goes in there, don't follow him or her. If they go into the kennel, don't try to, climb in or try to, pet them from inside. Just out of sight, out of mind. Leave them be. And, that consistency that your dog knowing that that is their space is going to be, the most important key rather than setting up a whole new spot and expecting them right away to be like, "Oh, this is fabulous. I have new digs." No, they're not going to base it on that. They're going to be like, "Well, where's my old stuff? Where's my whoopee?" so to speak.
Why are we changing? What I don't
Yes.
understand. Why do I have to go over here?
Exactly.
We're
Yeah.
never in here. Right. Yeah. And sometimes it can make them more stressed out, as you said, because it almost feels like they're being banished kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one of the things you touched on earlier was senior pets, and just like adults with cognitive dysfunction, mild cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's, dementia, holidays can be incredibly confusing because all of a sudden there's all this activity and frenzy. So,
Right.
what are some things we can do to support our older folks, our older dogs during the holiday season?
So supplements are going to be, one option that we can do. Um, Lion's mane mushrooms are a very good type of mushroom for cognitive support. Those, along with CBD, are going to give you a nice calming effect without too much synergistic tiredness or drowsiness. Omega-3s are going to be another supplement that we want to make sure that we're giving them. And these are all things that, we would want to give them even outside of the holidays. The holidays, this is where you're going to see that they're very beneficial, but these are all things that we can use on a daily basis with them, throughout the year. So lion's mane is going to be one. CBD will be another option for us. Chamomile, making a chamomile tea for them and adding it to their food once it's cooled down, of course. Those are going to be some of the supplements we can use for them. From an essential oil standpoint, lavender can be a calming, option for them. That's also going to, help them cognitively, because if we're keeping them calm and we're keeping those cortisol levels down, that's, going to help, with the after effect of, that boost of cortisol, and now their body's overworking, their adrenal glands are overworking, their liver's being overworked. So, the calming effect is going to help with the cognitive effect, but also keeping a regular routine for them and keeping them active. Age is not a disease, so we don't want to treat it like that. So we want to make sure that they're still getting out there and going for walks. And I call them engagement walks more so than a controlled walk, or enrichment walks where they can smell things. We want to let them smell. That's what they do. So, taking them for those engagement or those enrichment walks regularly, especially when people are, in town and around, so that they can get their time out to be a dog. Enrichment toys, puzzles, and activities are other things that can help to keep their mind sharp and just keep them on their toes. And, some dogs may not like the toys as much as the walks. Some dogs may like the toys more than the walks. So again, it goes back to knowing your dog, knowing the dog in front of you and what you're doing for them. But those are going to be ways, activity-wise and supplement-wise, that we can help them, to remain sharp cognitively.
Right on. I mean, and I think that's so critical, because we forget about, like, we get so caught up in the madness of the holidays, we forget to maintain routines for ourselves, certainly, but also
Right.
for our dogs. And I think that is critical. That's for Hayo. That's her kind of the highlight of her day, is the scratch and sniff walks, and we like to
Yep.
call them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where she gets to be a dog, basically,
Yep.
and sniff and mark and all of that. It can be very funny watching her trying to aim higher on the tires and not being able to quite cover the other dog. And I agree. I mean, I think your supplement suggestions are great. There's a bundle we put together to help support calmness over the holidays, and it includes many of the things you discussed, and it includes a product called Mushroom Relax, which is a combo of the medicinal mushrooms plus tryptophan and theanine, which are going to have some very fast acting effects. So for that
Yep.
dog that's in or getting into a panic situation, that's something you can use to help really calm things down considerably.
Yeah.
Because that's frustrating when they get so anxious that you really have a hard time bringing things back down.
Right.
So, one of the things that you're talking about too, I mean, if you've got a pet that's like, oh my God, Aunt Joan has come in here for the 6th time, how can you help that pet out? I mean, aside from throwing Aunt Joan out the front door and locking it, how can we help calm them down in that situation?
That one's going to be, again, trying to intervene what Aunt Joan is doing, but also, trying to find a happy medium to a point, in the sense of, okay, Aunt Joan, you're listening as well as the dog right now. Let's try to find a happy medium with this, where you are in the room with Penny, which would be my golden girl. I call her my golden girl, just like the Golden Girls. You're gonna hang out with Penny, but this is what I want you to do. You can be in the room with her. let her have her space. If she wants to come over to you, that's fine. If she doesn't and she decides to leave, we want to respect that for her. But really, for the most part, the human intervention is going to be the key to that. And we never want to lock our dogs in a room because we're taking away that freedom of them getting to choose. But I know for some of the dogs that I've had, that makes them more comfortable knowing, okay, I'm here, I'm good, nobody's going to bother me. And it's, again, reading the dog in front of you, maybe giving a little bit extra CBD to calm the dog down, giving a little CBD to Aunt Joan maybe too to calm her down. And then just finding that happy medium of respecting the dog space and the human, getting a little bit of time with your dog.
Right on, right on. And I think that's the tough thing too, is to when you've got that situation to intervene
Mm-hmm.
and make it a little calmer for your pet. And I love the suggestion of a little more CBD because that can help bring these guys down really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So that's super, super awesome. Um, and then in terms of, what's going on around the holidays, what are some of the things that people should be cognizant of that could be sort of unseen or unnavigated hazards for these guys?
Decorations, of course. Decorations are going to be first and foremost because, again, we're adding things that your dog's not used to having in the house, having around. I don't do Christmas trees because I would be picking it up off the ground more than not. And that's more so for the younger dogs than my senior. But if you're, putting a tree in an area that is a normal pathway for your dog, that's going to throw them off. And sometimes with our senior dogs, they don't see as well anymore. So they rely on their routine, their path that they take. They know where things are in the house. And if we're going to start switching those up, that can cause stress for them because now they can get confused and not be sure where to go or why is this in my space. Same thing with lights. If anything's hanging, they can get caught on it and try to walk through, and now they're dragging things or pulling things off the wall or off the shelves. So making sure that you have safe decorations is definitely going to be important. Another big thing is going to be any type of, we love the smell of the holidays, the candles, the incense, making sure that those are safe for our pets as well, because many of them contain ingredients that aren't safe for us or our dogs. The burning, the fragrances, they're going to have the PFAS in them. They're going to have other types of chemicals, to make them burn longer, to make them smell stronger. So, holiday scents, if we have to do it, stick to essential oils or do a simmer pot. And then the other part of it is going to be the food, all of the food that's going to be around, the different plates, different food that's decorations as well. I don't know if they still do it anymore, but stringing popcorn for garland on the tree, I mean, that's an open invitation for a disaster. Keeping food up and out of their reach, because we like our candies, we like our cookies this time of year, and the last thing we want is for our dog to be able to get to that and eat something that they shouldn't. So keeping the safe environment from decorations, keeping the food so that they can't get to it, and then the Christmas smells, making sure that any type of smell that you're bringing into the home is safe for you and your dog.
Right on. And I think those are all critical, especially we really should just start calling it indoor air pollution.
Mm-hmm.
All of these scented candles and stuff. So if somebody gives you one, just, if you got to burn it, just crank the ventilation open,
Yep.
so that stuff gets taken out, because it really is, there are a lot of scary, yucky chemicals in them for sure.
I stopped burning candles years ago, and I was a big candle person. I mean, I had certain smells could, only be certain time of the year, certain months, and just I had my rules for it. And one year I had a candle in the bathroom, and it was for the holidays. And I went in the bathroom one day to clean, and the whole toilet seat was full of soot, and it was just a black
Wow.
film. And I was like, this is terrible.
Hmm.
Like, we're breathing this in, they're breathing this in. That's just not good. And from that day forward, I mean, I quit cold turkey on the candles. And it was just a very, awakening situation to see whatever this is inside of us now too. So it's, yeah,
And that is the really scary truth, right? I mean,
yeah,
anything that you're yeah, Melissa says burn it outside, absolutely.
yeah,
But you're still, I mean, so much of this stuff does, if you're seeing soot on the toilet seat, that's a
yeah,
lot of aerosolization of really not good things. And
yeah.
you're right, you breathe it in, it's now in your system. It gets
Hmm.
absorbed through the lungs into the bloodstream and goes off its merry way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right on. Now, one of the other things you mentioned earlier, which I meant to circle back to, is okay, we've got this pet that's gotten stressed out, its cortisol levels are astronomically high, and the event's over, and now they're going to plummet and feel
Hmm.
cruddy. What can we do to kind of help prevent that crash and burn, or, once the event's over, start to help switch them from that sympathetic flight or fight state to that rest and digest or parasympathetic state?
So one thing that I like is going to be some Reiki, some energy healing, just getting them back to that calm state. And I actually just graduated the other day as an animal Reiki master. So that's going to be a great option. And you don't have to be right there. It can be done remotely, but that's going to help to just calm and relax them and get their energy back to that nice even level. Music, I am huge on music therapy. I'm working on sound therapy, trying to find a good program for that to learn more. But one thing that I've been doing for years for my girls is classical music, to the point where I'm used to hearing it in my house all the time too. Now when I don't hear, I'm like, what's going on? Why is it so quiet? But classical music is going to be a good way for dogs to calm down, and it's soothing for them, and something that you can use when you leave the house, when they're calming down. There's different sound machines for dogs as well, that's made specifically for them, with different sounds that's supposed to be calming. So it's really getting that energy back to that synergistic state. And we don't want to amp it up even more by throwing them right back into something that is overexciting. We could do a short walk, but we want to make sure that it's not too much, because we don't want to keep bouncing those cortisol levels up. We want to bring them down. So a nice calm quiet place, putting on some background music. And it doesn't have to be like we're at a concert. Dogs can hear much better than us anyway. So just loud enough to where it can be soothing for them. And having an energy Reiki session. Massage is another option, just really focusing on them, and the touch, and you know giving them that release that way. Even brushing them, that's a form of massage in and of itself. Yeah, we're not using our hands, we're not using kneading techniques or anything like that, but the brushing sensation for them, moving their hair along, is going to be something that can also be relaxing for a lot of dogs. So it's just giving them that one-on-one time, quiet space, getting that energy back, back to where we want it to be. And 9 times out of 10, what we're doing for them is going to help us just the same, to help bring us back down to sanity.
Right on, and well done completing the Reiki Master for Animals certification. That is so awesome.
Thank you.
Are you working with your clients with that already?
Starting to a little bit. Not It was, I think, Friday I finished up, so still working on some loose ends as far as that. But I've worked with a couple people so far with their dogs. I had the opportunity to help with a transition of life with one of my friend's dogs um, last week, so that helped everybody, I think, as well. But it's something that we're rolling out, and starting to really pick up steam with it. So
That's
it's
awesome.
exciting.
And is that something that you do remotely as well as in person?
Yeah, it can be done remotely. It can be done in person. transition of life, it was done in person. I also did a session for one of my good friends, her dog. That was remotely done. They're on the other side of the country, and just hearing how the dog reacted was very inspiring.
That is so awesome. And yeah, and Sam is saying that the solfeggio frequencies, this one in particular, 528 hertz. Have you played around with those yet?
I'm working on a course. I everything that I've read so far has been online stuff. I want to make sure that I'm getting the nitty gritty and making sure that it's all correct. The information I'm giving and sharing, but that is one that I have read that is very beneficial to them. And I believe the sound machine that I have is the 732. But the main thing that you have to be careful too with those frequencies is, if you're getting them off of YouTube, if you're getting them offline, they may not even be the actual frequencies that they're saying they are. So that's one thing you want to really make sure that, you're using a legitimate product with, that you can verify that you're giving the hertz that they need, as opposed to just sound or really nothing at all.
Right on, right on. And I think that is true. That is such a popular thing right now, that there's a lot of stuff out there and it sounds cool, but it may not be exactly what you were after.
Right.
So well done. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you a little bit more about, which doesn't necessarily relate to holidays, but I think it probably should, is working with canine fitness. So talk about what that is and how people might start to use that for their pets.
Well, I think, one thing that we seem to forget, or out of sight, out of mind, is the fact that, we're moving bodies, dogs are moving bodies. We're constantly, our bodies can constantly be in a state of, fight or flight, depending on the dog. Inflammation is going to be huge, a huge factor for dogs and people, and we don't always see that inflammation. We want to make sure that, we are treating their bodies the best we can. And the canine fitness, that's going to help you, to make sure that, again, age is not a disease. We want to keep moving. Dogs are meant to be moving. We don't see wolves in the wild that are curling up on the couch, for 22 hours a day. They're constantly on the move. And, we want to make sure, maybe not to the same extent as, wolves, but we want to make sure that we keep our animals moving and in the healthiest way possible. Once we start getting into older age and maybe arthritis, again, the inflammation, maybe old injuries, ACL tears, hip dysplasia, dogs are going to start compensating for those injuries. They're going to compensate for the inflammation, and that's going to lead to issues with other body parts that, we may not even consider. The hip dysplasia and arthritis in their hips, they're going to be putting more of their weight forward on their front legs, and causing more stress on that, because they want to take the stress off of where it hurts. So, with the fitness and conditioning, we're making sure that we are, treating their body as a whole, and keeping them in the best shape that we can with the cards that they've been dealt.
Right on. And so how would somebody start working on that for their pets? I mean, obviously, if they're in the Arizona area, they can come work with you. Is that
Mhm.
something you can assist people with, even remotely?
Yeah, so we can assist remotely, in the sense of, putting together a, we'll call it a workout plan, making sure that they're getting in, a certain number of steps a day for walking. There are online resources as well, as far as posture and, how we want them to stand, distribute their weight. Rehabilitation vets is going to be another option, or, rehab coaches, where they can bring in different types of tools to help the dogs start to learn how to balance themselves or how to distribute their weight. Hydrotherapy is another great option, that can be looked into to help keep their muscle mass, where we want it to be, because eventually, we're going to start to deteriorate with muscle mass as well. And we want to keep those muscles, as fit as we can, because once we start losing muscle mass, then we can start having a whole slew of other problems. So, doing an online program is beneficial. Having a tailored workout program sent to you can be done remotely, or working with somebody in your area, on a specific program can help as well.
That's cool because I think that's one of the things that there's so many people out there that don't have things like a rehab facility or somebody locally that can work with them. And so that's where I think it's going to be so important, is to be able to have access to people like yourself that can help them figure out how to help their dogs regain some mobility. Because
Absolutely.
that's kind of what we tend to do, is to let them rest
Hmm.
through an injury, instead of learning how to support the injury but keep them moving appropriately.
Right.
And sometimes absolute rest is required, but it's like in the 70s, doctors started telling their arthritis patients, "Oh, just rest more." Well, and of course, what happened was they lost more muscle mass, and so their
Yep.
ability to move worsened. And so finally, they're like, "Oh, guess this is a bad idea." But I
Yeah.
think that idea still persists in conventional veterinary medicine, and I think it ends up creating a lot more debilitation in dogs, especially dogs and cats to some degree,
Right.
but especially in dogs, instead of helping them maintain what they've got and keep moving.
Right.
So well done, because it is a huge problem, sadly.
Yes.
Um, and then one of the other things I wanted to talk about, so holidays,
Hmm.
this is when people start worrying about anxiety, but really it should be a lifestyle approach to helping support these guys. So once we get through the holidays, if somebody has a pet that they know is anxious, they have separation anxiety, they don't like certain situations, what would you suggest them to start doing on a regular basis, or stop doing, to help that pet figure out how to adapt to this
So
situation?
it's really going to depend on the pet that's in front of you. I mean, because in some instances we can say, okay, let's do slow introductions to this situation. Let them get used to it. Other dogs, we may be beyond that point of any type of slow introduction. So it comes back to we respect what the boundaries are that our dogs are showing us. The boundaries are not an excuse to maybe act out, misbehave, or, just completely lose your mind. But they are still boundaries nonetheless. So, we really want to take into consideration what the dog is showing us in front of us. Um, the stress can be a yearly thing. And sometimes we see wagging tails, and we see jumping dogs and excited dogs as happy dogs, and that's not always the case. That can be an anxious symbol, or reaction to what we have going on. So we have to look at that in front of us. Okay, why are you acting this way? What is happening? And then is it going to be a matter of using some training to help alleviate it, to help boost their confidence, to help them understand to trust us in those situations and follow our lead? Is it going to be a matter of, okay, we need to use supplements to help to just take the edge off and get them through these specific situations? Or is it a dog where the best thing to do is to just avoid those situations altogether? So, it depends on the dog that's in front of you and the course of action. But definitely reaching out to, a holistic coach, a trainer, or, both of them, is really
Or
going to help
you.
give you, yeah, is really going to give you the best help with that. Because we also don't want to ignore these issues, because issues, when they go ignored, they manifest, and they can build up and become worse over time, rather than what a lot of people think is, well, if I ignore it, it eventually goes away. the dog will grow out of it, those types of things. So we want to address the issues, but it really depends on what we have going on for that dog in front of us. And it's just like with with holistic, with health, dogs are the sum of all their parts, and we have to include environment, we have to include behavior in that. So it's not just a situation of there's one answer to solve everything. There's going to be a multitude of answers that we're going to need to be able to help our dogs and get them on the best train of action that is for them individually.
That is absolutely the correct thing. I mean, it's what I used to say in practice is the more they practice something, the better they get at it.
Hmm.
So the more they practice being anxious, the better they get at it. And then
Yeah.
we're in a situation where it's, life-threatening for the pet, literally because they're placing themselves in physical harm or because the behavior has escalated to the point where the pet parent can no longer handle that pet.
Yeah.
So I think that's, we probably don't say this often enough, but behavioral issues are still the number one reason for turnover of a pet to an ASPCA. So
Hmm.
taking action early is a great way to help prevent things from becoming disastrous later. And I,
Right.
I think that's, if you go back to that list of symptoms that you mentioned at the beginning, which actually, if you wouldn't mind, that would be super helpful to review because I think people miss these early warning signs.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's going to be a situation of, what it really comes down to is what socialization they had and exposure and desensitizing as puppies, as young puppies. We have a very small window for that socialization period, and everybody assumes socialization means going to as many parks as you can and meeting as many dogs and as many people. But what socialization actually is teaching a dog how to let the world exist around them without reacting to it. So that's where we really want to get started, and that's where we get started off of the wrong foot because a lot of people, they're keeping their dogs indoors until all the vaccinations are done, and now we've missed that window. Or they're going to puppy training classes where the puppies are just learning to run around and jump on each other, and now the first time they do that to an adult dog and the adult snaps at them, now we have a situation where the puppy has learned, okay, this is how I react to other dogs, and then it's just a snowball effect. So that getting started off the right foot, and that's if you're lucky enough to have to get a dog as a puppy. And this could be a whole nother video for this time of year, people getting puppies for Christmas. But that's really where it's going to start off with, is that socialization, that exposure, desensitizing them to the world around them. That's really going to come in handy. And then from there, life experiences can still alter that. Fireworks and loud noises, vacuum cleaners, maybe certain types of people, children, certain adults, certain way people approach dogs. Those are still things that can turn out to be a PTSD type of response from a dog. But trying to get them off on the right foot right off the bat is really going to be the route that you want to go from a behavioral standpoint, from a confidence standpoint. And you don't need a trainer to do that. That's something you kind of look at it as where do you see yourself in 5 years with your dog? What do you see yourself doing in 10 years with your dog? What is your plan of action with having your dog, and doing as much of those things and those encounters as you can right off the bat, so that they learn to just let those things exist around them. And that's what's really going to help with the progression, of their behavior, with the progression of the stress. And like I said before, as they get older, their tolerances change, their boundaries change, but you've still given them the best route for success in their lives that you can.
Right on. And that makes total sense. I think, when dog parks first became a thing, everybody was like, "Oh, I'm taking my dog to the dog park to socialize it." And that exactly. I mean, that's a recipe for a disaster, that for a dog that is marginally confident,
Hmm.
or not confident, because it's like total overwhelm with
Yeah.
dogs running everywhere. There was a problem in the Charleston area for a while in a couple of the parks where this guy would bring this incredibly aggressive, I think Rottweiler is what the dog was, and finally the dog actually killed another dog, but it took
Mm.
that before any other action was taken.
Yeah.
So it's really, I think, making sure that each new experience is a good one is
Right.
really, really critical. And I think
Hmm.
thinking through that is something that a lot of folks are not able to kind of to do. So thank you for laying out sort of the 5-year plan for your dog. And,
Yeah.
if you want them to enjoy walking with a buddy or something like this, then you need to start planning that experience out, uh, now. So if you
Yeah.
see what the end point is, then think about what the steps are along the way to get there.
Hmm.
And then also, if behavior changes, I mean, that could be a situation where um, there's something that's different in the way that the dog perceives um, the environment, or it can be an indication that there's something physically has changed in the body. And so
Hmm.
that may be a clue that you need to reach out to Denise or one of our other
Yeah.
amazing holistic pet health coaches if you're not getting answers from your vet about um, what might be different, because
Right.
if the gut's going off or something like this, that can certainly alter how uh, the behavior of the dog in front of you. So,
Absolutely.
you know, right on. So we are um, so lucky to have so much great wisdom in our community, and I'm so delighted that you could come and join us for today. Again, for those of you that are looking for supplement-based solutions to stress and anxiety for the holiday season, we've put together a really cool bundle, which I think will help you out. So there's both a long-term and short-term strategy included in there, so that even as the holidays start to end, you're able to help keep that stress level and things calm down quite a bit more. Denise, I've put your website up here a couple of different times. You're not, you are truly, you have a wealth of knowledge. So
Thank you.
if you're in the Arizona area, even if you're not, I think Denise has so many different options to help support you and your pet, particularly for those that are struggling with behavior issues as well as conditioning issues. So there's a myriad of things that can be done with diet, with exercise, um, and it can be done from a distance. So that's
Yeah.
part of what the coaches are trained to do, is to help you work through the whole picture to understand what's going to best benefit your dog. So thank you again for joining today.
Thank
I
you.
hope everybody's had a really good time, and take good care. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.